This song is about a heron that stands every evening in my hometown of Broughty Ferry on the shoreline. And he exists in a constant state of liminality, partially in the water, partially on land. They said I'd find you here today, back straight, eyes fixed upon your prey. And I know, we each find comfort in our own ways. But why must you build your home on some cold, forgotten stones? And I know, sanity comes with being alone. His back's to the world that he knows, forgets them all, so I'm told. And I know, he patiently wills his life to unfold. Well, I see you. Why can't you sense me? But the tide ebbs, the tide flows. It casts up memories untold, and they'll come and they'll go, and they'll come and they'll go, until time turns them old. Well, I see you by the moonlight. Why can't you sense me? I've been circling round you all night, and I ought to pull you up into my flight, but I want to make you believe. I think it's time for me to let go. You never did seem to fit the throne. I think you do much better on your own. I think it's time for me to let go, 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 go. Graceful hunter, look at your feet. Well, there's a stone placed there for me, and we can go, we can go, we can go, we can go together in stillness from the sea. Thank you very much. And I'll hand it over.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us to mark the launch of our collaborative effort. It's a book, as you will see when you open a copy, of many colors. This project was assigned as my work placement, but it was, as I say, a collaboration. Many threads wove together to create it. You might see the beautiful antique books that inspired us as our flax and silk. We MLitt writers harvested it during our dives on, viewings of, the very impressive archives here at the Uni. Some of those books are displayed in this gallery right now. We quickly spun our stories prose and poems from these precious pages for inclusion in the volume we're celebrating and for the Dundee University Review of the Arts online journal. Our new friends, the fourth-year illustration students at DJCAD, looking at the strengths and beauty of our warp, created their jewel-colored prints in sundry forms that comprises the weft. We have here a complete and charming work of art, each piece bound and strengthened by the others in the book, yet able to stand on its own. Our works have brought the writers closer together as a creative group, just as I suspect the illustrators also feel more cohesive. And I know that each group of people who worked on each text, writer and illustrators, have a special bond that may never quite dissolve. For you can't put your imagination and heart into something without feeling the connection. Because of this human connection, as well as the physical form of this book, I believe that from the vaults in which the university special collections are kept, marvel after marvel has sprung. I hope you enjoy the readings today and the lovely music we feel so lucky to have from Nick. Thank you again for coming. So we have readings from almost everybody. Only one person wasn't able to make it, but I would like to mention the illustrators of that text are Scott Kroger and Adina Zibar. If you're about, just let everybody see who you are. There's Scott. Our first reading is by Loretta Mulholland. The illustrator for her piece is Eric Cons. And lovely. So, Loretta, would you come up?
Because I just wanted to thank whoever did the illustration for this. It was a wonderful piece. Genealogies. The genealogies underlined key theological concepts such as the humanity of Christ and the inheritability of original sin. My father came from a huge family, none of whom were of any particular significance. He could not speak for over 30 years, struck dumb by a stroke in his early 50s. Instead, he communicated by photographs, books, documents, and objects which held meaning for him. On his 80th birthday, he presented me with a box I had never seen before. Nothing fancy, a full leather piece with gold-plated edgings and an old-fashioned clip that you had to turn before the catch released and it sprung open. Like one of those children's jewellery boxes. But within it, there were no jewels, just a tattered sheet of paper, so thin that when touched, tore along the folds and left pieces in my hands. I don't know why I was shaking when he sat me down, but I knew there was something important in that stained brown leaf of paper. I looked at my father. His eyes were moist, but he motioned me with his useless right arm, fingers gnarled and tight as ancient roots, that I should read it. He then smiled and laughed, an ironic rattling sound coming from somewhere deep in the base of his throat. I smoothed open the piece and read carefully. Extract from the Register of Births and Deaths. Mother, born, father, father, father. I stared at the spidery calligraphy. Not my name, not my father's name, not the family I'd been born into, had known all my days, had named my children after. I knew every crease, every fold, and every line of his face so well. Yet these lines, inked into this unfolded paper, revealed an unknown father. I looked up. He held my gaze with sadness so profound that all I could do was smooth out the creases, stroking that newborn baby's name over and over again before laying it down.
Jane Swanson is going to read Sand Dollars. It was illustrated by Amy Adam and Sophie Morrison.
Thank you. Sand dollars. I'm on a beach in Galveston with my 2 young daughters collecting sand dollars. Sun-bleached sea urchin skeletons lay scattered along the high tide waterline, as fragile as salt crackers, curved on top and flat on the bottom, circular and wafer thin, with petal-like patterns edged with 5-paired rows of paws. We shake one and the loose teeth inside rattle like seeds in a pod. My daughters ask, are they lost coins from a mermaid's purse? How much is a sand dollar worth? We collect pink seashells, orange starfish, driftwood and razor shells. We sit on the sand, lay everything out on a piece of driftwood. A shop. My daughters play the shopkeepers and I the customer. 1 sand dollar is worth 5 seashells or 3 starfish. Fragments of broken sand dollars become sand cents. Tiny teeth shaped like doves in flight fall out of a broken casing. Later we find a shark's tooth, and my daughters ask, what does the tooth fairy give sharks when they lose a tooth? A silver sand dollar, I say, and they are satisfied. Sand dollars, sand cents. Thank you.
I'd like to take a quick, well, it's not exactly a break. I'd like it to, could you say a few words? Tommy is the head of illustration and illustrators, and he's done an amazing job of printing everything in this book.
Thank you. Cheers, Rhoda. So I don't have anything prepared. I was just going to come and say thank you to everyone involved, all the writers and illustrators. I think you've done a fantastic job. I'm really impressed at the works that have come together. I think it's a very successful collaboration, and I really believe in folk working together. I think you can make great stuff. So well done. Thank you.
Frog's Legs, Hannah Whaley, and Mari, and Lair, and Emily Thomas.
Thank you, Rhoda, and thank you to Emily and Mary for the work on this. Frog's Legs. My daughter found a frog this morning, resting on the hot tarmac by the edge of the reservoir as we walked hand in hand along a well-trodden mile between town and home. She stopped to marvel at it, and like a visual echo, I stopped to marvel at her. The uninhibited curiosity of my own little creature, as fascinating to me as the motionless frog on the verge was to her. The smallest creature turned a watchful eye, but remained still for several minutes otherwise. With no warning, it sprung forward, as if catapulted from some invisible contraption into the water, where it slid instantly from view. We startled, perhaps mostly from a lack of regard that its sudden departure showed for the intrusion we had allowed in our routine. We continued our walk in silence. My daughter attends preschool for 2 hours, while I stretch away the time at an upmarket gym nearby. My toes curl into my yoga mat, slipping and straining, digging in for traction. I crouch back on my bent legs, folded out like the frog, and force attention to build inside my muscles. Could enough coiled energy spring me forward? I might leapfrog out of the mundanity of yoga class, of breathing on command, past rows of women in coordinated leisure wear, and into a new adventure. My own startling pool of fresh cold water, my own sudden departure.
The next poem is The Muse's Welcome by Sue Whistler, and Geraldine Gould is very kindly reading it. It's been illustrated by Julia Burns. As Rhoda said, this is on behalf of Sue.
It would have been a big deal back then, the King coming to Perth. Way bigger even than Saints winning the Scottish Cup. But people out in the streets just the same. Katrina reckons she's related to the merchant Burgess, but she's a blether. Stuart's a common name. Dad looks up from his newspaper and says that we're more likely to be related to him than Katrina's folks, as they were all villains going back in time. And anyway, he adds, turning the page, Katrina would have had to hide from the king on account of her red hair and her sister being a midwife. Burnt as witches, along with all the left-handed women and herbalists, Mum shouted from the kitchen. Gran shows me a magazine with the whole speech in it. The writing is tricky to read because the S's all look like F's. The words are curly and old-fashioned. Gran says that although King James was a bit obsessed with witches, he wasn't all bad, as he invented the Royal Mail and he gave us the Bible in English. Grandad says the king wasn't interested in the Scots. That's why he only visited once in 20 years. He's wagging his finger and shouting that James only cared about turning Scotland into Little England, especially the Scottish Kirk. Gran tells him to hod his wheesht. She winks at Grandad and tells him that pesky bishops look lovely in their purple robes. Grandad says John Knox would be turning in his grave.
Our next piece is 12th Cranial Nerve. It was written by Brenda McHale, who also can't be here, but Elaine Burke will be reading for her. And it was illustrated by Kat Gillen.
12th Cranial Nerve by Brenda McHale. I get up and go to the bathroom. Something isn't right. My face feels odd, like after the dentist. I look in the mirror. One side of my face is me, mine. The other side belongs to someone sad and drawn. I'm shocked, but only one side registers the emotion. The other is unmoved. I am scared and rush down to the kitchen where my girls are. Oh my God, Mum, what's happened? I speak, but one side of my mouth decides to stay quiet. The words come out, not slurred like from a stroke, but blurred round the edges. I try to smile reassuringly, but their faces show horror, so I quickly stop smiling. A visit to the doctor gives the name to it, Bell's palsy. My 12th cranial nerve has let me down. The label reassures. Say Battle of Britain, the consultant tells me. I try, but the words come out distorted. Nothing more than from one corner of my mouth, leaching coherence from the words. I'm given a prescription for steroids and told it could take weeks or months or longer to recover. It takes weeks. The wellness of one side of my face amplifying the distortions of the other. As my mouth and eye drag downwards, so does my confidence, and I hide behind my hand and my front door. Beauty and the Beast on a single visage is how it feels.
We have an atrocity exhibition by Kai Durkin, and this was illustrated by Matthew Gow. Who's over there?
We covered the brain in 3 weeks, traversing terrains of grey matter from the frontal lobe across the cerebrum range to the base of the cerebellum. Everything was soft beneath our feet, spongy. We feared losing our step, to stumble in the mucus and slip into the deep crevice between one hill and the next. These were not valleys, but a labyrinth, slivers of darkness one could slide down into and never return. Indeed, as we were crossing the central sulcus, one especially absent-minded young researcher almost met his end in this exact manner. Ballard would certainly have been lost had it not been for the swift intervention of myself and Wells. We each reached out as if of one mind and seized his wrists, pulling him back with no small amount of strength onto more stable ground. almost a corpse within a corpse. After that, ropes were passed out, and each one individual tied to several persons' waists, so that the weight of the others attached to the same rope would counterbalance the fall. Provided the rope does not snap, was the unspoken caveat, or Rotund Ronald does not fall in and pull us all in after him. At regular intervals, the captain would assure us that it was evening, and we would pitch tents of membrane. Even dead, the human body is never so lifeless as one supposes. This body was being preserved, of course, its decomposition artificially slowed, so that we might conduct our exploration. Yet each night beyond my tent, I fancied I'd heard the probing snuffles of sluggish bacteria, inhibited but not killed by the freezing temperatures. It made me wonder and shudder at my own body, not just alive, but a grotesque menagerie of living things, a quivering ecosystem of flesh and bone.
Time Goes On, written by Christine B. Hodgson, sorry, and illustrated by Fraser Robertson and Stephen Harper.
I'd like to thank my illustrators. They've done an absolutely amazing job of this. Really pleased with it. Thank you. Right, time goes on. A musty odour wrenched my gut. The coffin spliced open. Clouds of white bloated the cavernous mausoleum. Bones rattled, timber cracked, and dust dispersed through the stagnant air. Exhumed and hung by threads, for a hair's breadth, time stood still. Time watched unhindered. Beyond this place trees grow, flowers bloom and fade. Time goes on.
Next is Mystery of Memory, written by Elaine Burke, who's already read once, but she's doing her own now, and it was illustrated by Molly McCammon.
Is Molly here? Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Molly very much for the illustration for this. It's called The Mystery of Memory. I wonder about memory. I search for a memory. Where did I put it? And wish I had a catalogue. Did I store it in emotions? That's often where I look first. But of course you get stuck when an experience arouses more than one emotion. I try date next. This used to be reliable because there's only one date when something happens. What I hadn't counted on was the unreliability of memory as you age to remember the precise date. I don't think my sought-after memory is in family or work. No, I'm sure this is an individual memory. I'll try place. I subdivided that into home and away, a bit like domestic and international departures. I perhaps imagine sending them to a physical place and therefore being able to find them more easily. But this is problematic. I look in home and at home then appears, and I realise that I feel at home in various locations, so I change this to house. No, there is no clear location for the memory I seek. What about senses? Is it something I saw, heard, touched, smelled or tasted? I become aware of my surroundings. A man beside me hums a tune. No words, so I can't work out the title. I begin to see the memory. It is of being tucked up in bed, of playing I Spy, making a worm farm, of watching carry-on films, being embraced in an airport, opening a letter in a foreign place, walking down the aisle. I make a new file, but I wonder what to call it.
Ian Holm will be reading Larkspur. Hume? I don't know why I do that all the time. The illustrator was Leanne Walmsley-Clever.
Larkspur. I can hear you draw life from interstices of paper, up through conduits of green to dolphin heads flashing in cerulean brilliance. Water channels stock dry, now wet like the mountain. Linen pressed plates of porous stone surface yielding to surface, draw moisture to you. Softly, iambic, larkspur, I hear you. Already halfway to a reliquary, caught in a doorway between worlds, it's not a letter from Cicero transfixing you, Francesca Petrarca, but news of Laura de Noves. Thank you.
I have to follow that. Mine is called A Lighting, and it was beautifully illustrated. I'm sorry, by Catriona Donaldson and Jen Francis. Turning the heavy pages, she comes to a scatter of butterflies. One of her childhood memories faintly materializes and flutters to her. Trees, tall as 20-story buildings, blocked the fierce July sun, their shade only trapping the heat. The light was dim, but for the ferns glowing like aventurine in light pools, while the redwoods, with their vanilla-scented bark, kept the ground for themselves. They had been walking for hours. The muggy atmosphere curled around her neck now, cutting her off her air. Her body sagged under the weight. She thought of the frigid waters in Huntington Lake, dark, deep, frightening. The shore always seemed miles away there. It would be so much easier to puzzle out the mysteries of kayak paddling or even tacking in the treacherous winds compared to this airless, forced march. They rested by a stream. Its water glided through a shallow trough of land, running over stones, sticks, fallen needles, creating waterfalls and log jams in miniature. The stream's flow was insistent, invasive, except for one inlet where the current couldn't reach. There, water striders, like Jesus-style daddy longlegs, took little dashes across the still liquid, chasing even smaller insects on which they dined. She would have watched them endlessly. "Come on, we're nearly there now," urged someone in that brisk, untrustworthy voice used by adults to whip children on. They set off again. Where was this there? She never seemed to know what adults intended. Following along, most things were a mystery. You just had to try to catch up. Sometimes you want an idea of what it was all about. It turned out today was one of those times. Picking their way along forest path, clambering over fallen trees, winding through hummocks and hillocks, they finally came to a place where the redwoods thinned. Not a clearing quite, but a space where the trees allowed a shaft of light like an incandescent waterfall to come down all the way to earth. And there, right in the middle of the light beam, was a deciduous tree. She'd learned the term that summer. With dancer's branches, arms weaving towards the sky, black, leafless, dead, and yet it seemed to breathe. Stepping closer, she could see it wasn't black at all, but aflame with monarch butterflies, not dudded, not dotted, not studded, not infested, but bejeweled. They rested on their intercontinental journey, side by side in their thousands, orange and black wings fanning slowly in time with each other, not one out of rhythm, tiny gems beating like a heart. Nicola? Sorry. Nicole? Sorry, now my nerves come out. Jimmy, Gutweed. This was illustrated by Duncan Adams and Detta Carpet-Craig.
Gutweed. The gutweed is thick and tall, a briar of subterranean green. I try to swim, wildly thrashing my feet. The shorter, sharper coral weed nips my ankles, then retreats again. Light wavers, transforms like a kaleidoscope, disappears altogether. Shadows pose as foliage. My legs are too heavy and are becoming heavier still. Something wraps around my wrist and tugs hard, as if I'm a child about to walk onto the road. I stop kicking. My toes squelch into blood sponge. I pull at the strands knotted around my wrist, laden-limbed and empty-lunged.
Okay, part one is our next poem, written by Geraldine Gould, illustrated by Monica Kirikoff and Robbie Kieran.
You need to listen very carefully. Only a trained ear will do, one which knows how to listen very, very carefully. You took a deep breath and listened. There it is, old and still yours, that brag of a heart you used to have, reminding you of what you miss. Put your ear towards the heart, the skin of your ear on the skin of another's chest. You used to think, therefore you thought you were. You will hear the sound of blood instead of waves, fluid gurgling and trickling, bubbling its way through opening and closing valves. Active, preventing, active, preventing, active, preventing, active, preventing. Listen to the oxygen-rich, purple, throbbing red of this meaty thing, pumping life. How smooth the murmurs, how turbulent the rhythm, how high or low, the wane and flood of it, the ebb and flow, soft percussion, depleting rain. You are the physician with your stethoscopic ear. Listen, listen very carefully.
And finally, we have The Last Time We Drew Flowers, written by H.M. Hussein and illustrated by Lauren Swan.
The last time we drew flowers. Take the pencil for a walk and make lines, Mrs. Murray would say. Use light lines and heavy lines, soft lines and hard lines. Lines you can barely see, keep even the bad lines. If these lines turn into a face, shells, fruit or flowers, navigating curves and arcs, never lifting the pencil from the page, keeping wrists loose and free. Paint and brush moving as drooping petals, lilies and orchids blossom on a flat plain. Adding colour made them vivid, hues of reds, lilacs, yellows, blues and green, and everything in between. Now, half close your eyes to see where the light falls and add shade. Without balance, you can't see one without the other. We spent a lifetime on flowers. In our science classes, we watched them grow from seeds in a jar of dirt to the fullness of form. We rushed to the window every morning, expecting sudden spurt, overnight transformation. But life and beauty require care and patience. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to all our pieces, and I'd like to ask Kirsty Gunn to come and speak with us now.
Thank you, Rhoda.
And thank you to both Kale and Kirsty for being both marvellous leaders.
You know, I mean, what can I say? I mean, this has been such a treat, hasn't it? And I love what Tommy said at the beginning. You know, this business of, what did you say, Tommy? We believe in folk working together. Boy, do we believe in it. And Rhoda alerted us too in her beautiful opening remarks about the power that is inherent in a work of art. Whether it's something that we come upon in our wonderful archive here at the University of Dundee, or whether it's something that we craft and create ourselves. This is a treasure trove indeed. I had such fun last night. Gail and I were like children in a sweetie shop, weren't we, Gail, when the box of finished copies came in, and we went through all of these beautiful pieces that you've all made together and have created from an archive that is already a vivid and living presence here in the university. Another archive within an archive. I do urge you all to purchase a copy of this beautiful limited edition publication and to celebrate a wonderful program here at the University of Dundee. Writing, Practice and Study comes into its last year here in its current iteration, and it's been 13 years of wonderful, creative, collaborative, hands-on work with outcomes such as these. And it's just a wonderful moment for all of us together to celebrate that time as we move into a new era of creative writing. I just would like to close by thanking, obviously, our partners, the Saltire Society, for thanking Caroline and her wonderful team down in the archives for opening the door of the vaults and letting us all in. Of course, to thank Tommy and his amazing team of illustrators and designers at DJCAD. You've all been amazing. But finally, to thank you, all of the students who've been involved. Eddie Small, who first gathered everybody up. How can I ever thank Eddie enough? I'd spend the rest of my life doing it, and I still wouldn't have thanked him enough. But all of you who've been involved in this wonderful, wonderful project, thank you, thank you, thank you. Congratulations. And I would just simply like to present Rhoda with a rather poorly wrapped little bouquet by way of thanks and appreciation, because we all know that the job of corralling so many people to do so many different things is a complicated one. Rhoda, you've been a star.